versus a French side more than likely because there were German sides and French sides matched up with each other in the semifinals. There was an outside chance it could be German or French sides, but kind of had the feeling.
Yeah, that wasn't likely.
Yeah. Although I was really hoping Leipzig would win just because I really like the presence of Adams on their team, and they're a young club. I mean, in terms of, they were formed 11 years ago,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, really young club. So it's fun. It's fun to root for them a little bit.
I didn't know if they ever dropped out of the top tier. They were created like 11 years ago. I want to see they say they made it to the top tier 9 years ago.
Sounds about right. For some reason, I thought it was 6, but I think you're right. I think it's
it could be. I literally took a guess at 9. I literally have nothing to base it on. But I think I don't remember that once they were up, if they ever got knocked down.
I don't think so. I think they've been there.
Yeah.
Consistently. So, but what we do have is probably, you've got star power, name recognition with Neymar. Keylor Navas isn't playing because he got hurt in the Atalanta game.
Right.
I don't know if he'll play Sunday, but he didn't play today. But of course, he's a Champions League champion numerous times with Real. If he comes back, that'll be a very good key addition for PSG. But they've got the name recognition with Mbappe and Neymar and even Di Maria from Argentina. People who follow soccer know, Marquinhos and Kimpembe, center back. Those are big names in the soccer world. However, sometimes when you got a conglomeration of stars versus a really, really good team, which is what Bayern is, they're just loaded, and they're, what I would say, kind of using a college football analogy, is they're too deep at every position. Their starters and their second team are pretty much, I think their second team could easily win the Europa League, like easily.
I thought the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Luckily they don't have to worry about that. Gnabry came out of nowhere, right? This game. He's literally in the halfway through the first half, he's looking at scoring a natural hat trick.
Yeah.
Right. He second goal was garbage. But you know what? It still counts. Yeah. I can't imagine, and I mean it in all honesty, not because I'm a Bayern supporter, but I can't imagine any side in Europe beating those guys. There's just way too. I think I told you that's the best side I've seen since Barcelona's last treble side. Whenever Enrique managed them.
They're just so stacked, and they play so well.
So good.
Precision play, and they just keep coming at you. It's like I don't know, analogizing it to other sports. For folks that maybe don't watch soccer so much, college basketball back in the day when you used to watch like Arkansas, Nolan Richardson's 40 Minutes of Hell. It's like they're just constantly coming at you, or maybe UNLV, when they were just constantly coming at you and you just never had a chance to breathe. Maybe you were up 2, 4, 6 points against those teams, and you knew you felt like you were losing because you knew that sooner or later they're going to beat you by 10 or 20. It's just inevitable. In this team, Bayern, they could go down. What was the day we were watching that game over at your place? They went down 1-0 early, and you're like, uh-oh, this team just woke up a sleeping giant. Watch what happens now. And then they just poured on the goals. Remember, it was like 1, 2, 3, boom, 4. They had I think they scored 4 in a row, and then finally at the game, the other side, who was a good Bundesliga side. I can't remember who it was that day, but they scored a late goal to make it 4-2. A guy got like his debut goal or his first goal in Bundesliga that day. I recall that, but yeah, it was inevitable. It was just inevitable.
Yeah. It's an amazing side. The 27 Yankees, right? It's that type. Well, actually, it's more than that. It's the, what was it, 98 to 2001 Yankees, because the Bayern's won Bundesliga, what, 8 consecutive years now.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to believe they won their league 8 consecutive years, and this is the farthest they've gone in Champions League in that time.
Yeah, I mean, they used to be a regular fixture at the Champions League final. Thinking back, Juventus, them, in the early 2000s, they were both regular fixtures in those finals. But recently, of course, it's been Real, and then Liverpool won last year. But it seems like they are the heavyweight, barring some kind of silly happenings. I just don't see them losing it. I really don't. And look, I'm not discrediting Mbappe and Neymar. They're going to have good games.
Sure they are. Yeah.
And I think Verratti in the midfield was rested today. They're going to play him on Sunday. I think they'll play him on Sunday unless he's injured or something. He's world class. He's a world class midfielder for PSG. Other than that, what's his name? Ander Herrera, who came from Man United.
Mm-hmm.
Smart player. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to feather those passes in there. Those little drops them into the box, gets people open. They'll have their chances, but I just don't see them stopping. They're not going to stop Bayern from scoring.
No, you can't. Lewandowski can't help but score.
Yeah.
I mean, he's scoring without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
I don't think Di Maria is going to have that great of a game. He never does. When he's like Higuain, right? It's something about these Argentine players, big money games, they don't show up for. Right. Mbappe's going to show up. Neymar's he shines in the spotlight. Big games, he's a spuckum. He is. He's gonna play like he's like he's the best player in the world. I don't think their defense can handle the amount of pressure. I don't think their midfield can handle the amount of pressure that Bayern's going to give them. I just don't.
No, other than Verratti, who's a bulldog, I think Ander Herrera is a good guy moving forward. I don't see him as the box-to-box defender type player that's going to take the ball off of anybody.
Right.
Who's the other guy? That is another Argentinian that's plays left midfield for them, plays like left center midfield. He's an Argentinian.
You're asking the wrong guy.
But anyway, the point is we don't know his name, and that says something. I know who he is. I just can't remember his name, and he's not going to dazzle anybody, nor is he going to outplay anybody, out hustle anybody. Paradis, maybe? Paradis, does that sound familiar?
Sounds right, or it's close.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But then you got Bayern, and you got Gnabry who's been shining, and he's more or less like he's just an additional guy. Like, what about Alphonso Davies, 18 years old, just totally just running past everybody. He made
Guy's got so much pace. Yeah.
He made Semedo look silly from Barcelona. And Semedo's a fast guy, and he just ran right by him. Then you've got, what's his name? Kingsley Coman, another fast guy. How are they going to keep up with that pace all game long, 90 minutes?
I don't know. Muller's playing like he's 18 again.
Yeah. When you play with those guys, right, it's going to energize you,
Yep. And don't forget, this guy was dead 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They were looking to move him.
That and the German national team told him this past year, you're done. And, it's like the writing was on the wall, but now all of a sudden he's rejuvenated. Their goalkeeping situation is rock solid. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Their defensive line is very good. I mean, Davies could play fullback. He can also push up to the wing if you want him to. He could play a left wing back, right wing back. He could play anywhere, really. But you've got Mats Hummels?
Yep.
At center back, just a rock solid defender. Yeah, I mean, I don't really see. And then who's the other side? An Austrian defender plays fullback. What's his name?
For Bayern?
Yeah.
Oh, you're killing me, Frank. You're killing me. I'm gonna have to look at the lineups. Let's see here. For their left side,
yeah,
you got David Alaba,
That's it, David Alaba. I mean, the speed that he's got, stopping wingers coming down that side. Nobody really gets by him. And Davies on the other side, nobody's going to get by him. And Davies is going to attack going forward. So, I mean, it seems like it's really set up for Bayern to win, if not comfortably, I would say win fairly easily, but not comfortably, because I know that PSG is going to put some pressure offensively.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You want to you want to take a shot and give it a make a prediction?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high scoring game because both teams are going to let it loose. I think they're going to try to get their chances in. I don't think they're going to play tight to the vest. I would be very surprised if they did. I don't see the PSG coach as being one who's going to say, let's slow things down.
No, it's not his style.
No, and I don't think Bayern has a need to. I don't think they have to feel like that at all. I think this could be a 5-2 game, Bayern.
Wow, I was going to say 4-2.
Wow.
Okay. Be honest, I was thinking 3-1, but I'm like, you're not going to hold PSG to 1 goal.
No.
So we're looking at. I want to look at the Fox Bet app probably tomorrow and see what because I know Bayern, even according to ESPN FC, even last night after PSG won, they already said that Bayern is a huge favorite.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll put some money on it.
I could see the second half being one of those times where somebody like PSG draws it close for a minute or two, right? In the 60th minute, they draw it to 3-2 or 4-2, and it's like a glimmer of hope. And then
they start pressing.
Yep.
And Bayern just turns around and just knocks them out.
Yep. That's what I see happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking the same. Hey, speaking of knockouts, did you happen to watch the DNC last night?
I didn't. As we talked about yesterday, I watched a good portion of Monday night, but I didn't watch last night.
That's all right. I got you covered.
All right, cool.
Tonight, it means we both got to watch it, right? Or without it, we got to rely on Lou.
Coming from golf, and he might be tired.
Yeah, you don't know, especially if he has to walk. Right? Yeah. Dude, salesmen don't like to walk. They don't. They like. Anyhow, couple of things stood out to me. You probably heard about them. There was a video narrated by Cindy McCain.
Yeah.
That documented, Biden's and Senator John McCain's friendship, and it was a stark contrast to, and this is the one thing I've noticed over 2 days, that you're not going to see in the RNC is these connections that people are making with candidates, right? I mean, whether it's other politicians or, in this case, a politician's spouse, you're not going to see that in the RNC portion, right? You're going to see a very angry convention, very angry people. But this one I thought was, I actually like last night better than the night before, even though I didn't see a whole lot of the night. I mean, other than Michelle Obama, there wasn't really anything I wanted to see. Joe Biden, I thought, did a good job. I don't know if you saw her video. It was up on, all these videos are up on YouTube. But she told Joe's story, right? And here she is, a wife telling her husband's story. And then Biden comes in with a cameo toward the end, and he says, "Hi, I'm Joe Biden's husband," or something like that, right? Which I thought it was, it was very Obama-esque. Let's put it that way. Here's a name for you. Have you ever heard of? If you do, Frank, I'm going to be so impressed. It's going to be silly. Jacqueline Brittany.
Nope.
Okay, I didn't think you did. You know why? Because before last night, nobody heard of her. Give you a story. Joe Biden went to the New York Times for an interview. Okay, and there was a woman, this Jacqueline Brittany, who was the elevator operator. Okay, and they did a selfie. Her and Biden did a selfie, which apparently, according to her, was a total slip of the tongue. She says something like "I love you" or something like that, right? She ends up introducing him at the DNC last night.
That's awesome. That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah. I thought that was absolutely amazing. That they pulled somebody just. I don't mean to sound mean, so forgive me. I apologize ahead of time, but they basically took a nobody, right?
Yeah.
And put her in the spotlight to introduce Joe Biden. I don't know if that was amazing. Just whoever thought of that had amazing political sense, or just was decent enough to say, this is a great story. We need to do something about this. I don't know which way it went, but either way, it was a home run.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both, and I think that it's definitely a home run when you do that kind of stuff. And we talked about it with Tellez yesterday. It means a lot more than the celebrity stuff, and that's something that you see these RNC people, the GOP people, trying to make fun of the celebrities that support the Democrats. But they're missing out on. There's a lot of everyday folks that are involved in this, and in prominent role in this too. So I think it's clear that this is a election dividing a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most emotional elections I've ever been watched, witnessed, been lived through. But everything is completely sized. When you watch the Twitter sphere GOP people, they don't talk much about her. They don't talk about people like Tellez, because what are they going to say?
Right. Then there was the duds, and this is really what I wanted to talk to you about. You had John Kerry.
Okay.
I'm just gonna rattle them off, then I'll let you comment on every one of them. Okay.
Sure.
John Kerry, who, all right, former nominee, Secretary of State, yada yada yada. It seems to me like the people that they're trying to reach, John Kerry means literally nothing to them.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer, okay, he's the minority, the Senate minority leader. I get that, but oh my God, he's about as exciting as watching paint dry.
Yeah.
And very weak. Let's not forget he's also he's not a strong presence in the Senate.
No.
You had former President Clinton. My biggest problem with this is the DNC has to go past the Clintons. They have to. The Democratic Party has to get past these guys. At this point, they're anchors. So you have Bill Clinton last night. You think you're getting Hillary tonight, which I thought was. I mean, I understand why they do it, right? Because you kind of have to. But holy shit, you got to get it's time for them to go. It is. And the one other thing that really kind of got to me was AOC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It wasn't the fact that she was there, and I think she should be there, right? I mean, she's a mover in the Democratic Party. She's her and what do they call them? I forgot. The squad, right? Whether you like it or not, these women are heavy hitters in the Democratic Party right now. Okay. The fact that she had a 90-second nominating speech for Sanders and then caught all kinds of hell about that whenever people who didn't understand how the things work, that was the Democrats yet again dropping the ball, I thought. So I'm curious, I know I threw 4 names at you, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely starting with the first one, I don't have a lot to add. I think you're right. Spot on, Kerry isn't really reaching anybody. It may be just one of those things that it's the second convention. You've got the roll. It gets a little bit boring with that roll call. You just stick him in there as a nod to him and say, look, you've been a party you've been a party loyalist, I guess. I say it, party loyalist all these years. Gave you a nod and let you start a convention, but is it a prime spot? I don't know. And it's just kind of there, which maybe is the do if you're going to say like we're going to reward loyalty, but you know, he's not very inspiring. He never was. I mean,
No.
he's a smart guy. He's very, very capable. Just not inspiring. He doesn't get a lot on. So, but that's what it is. Like, let's give him his spot and let's move on. The Clinton stuff, man. Yeah, I have a problem with that. I think that really, I guess you can't bury it. He's a former president. But at some point, we don't see Jimmy Carter there, right? I mean,
right.
At some point you got to just move past it and say, all right, you're almost 2 decades ago now, right? I mean, you're a long time ago. Is he moving the base? Is he getting money in? What's he doing? Like, is he doing something enough to say, well, we've got to give him a nod because he's bringing in millions of dollars. He's bringing in millions of votes. I don't really see that. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see that. Does his foundation do any good work? Yeah, it probably does. But that's where he should probably continue to focus his efforts and say, I'm going to repair my image by doing all these good works, and then, work from there. I mean, even Nixon made a recovery after he had his scandal. But you just have to kind of let it take its course, right? Go put your head down and go to work, so to speak, and not just look for the accolades, which is kind of what it seems like with him. Yes, he was president. I'm not going to discount it. Okay. But, and then, who was it after Clinton you mentioned? I know AOC is the last one, but who was the other one that you mentioned? Schumer. Oh yeah. 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 I'm really irritated by him. I'm just really irritated by him. Look, Senate Minority Leader, you mentioned that. I guess you have to give him a nod, but it seems like that's the night that everybody who was just kind of like, well, we have to put these people in here, so we'll stick them in here on the night that there's a roll call, and then we'll get to the crescendo. We'll get more exciting, as days go on. Ironically, last night was one of the most watched events, so hopefully it'll pick up again tonight, and people will get to see some more exciting stuff. As far as AOC goes, I'm a fan. I am a fan. I'm more of the mind that I like her policies. I think that radical as they are where we need to go. Maybe not fully, but here's why I really like her. She's got the guts to do it and say it. And we've been pulled so far to the right, okay, that anything that's, considered moderate is also right. Everything that's moderate is basically right. So we need something very far left to pull us back to where moderate would be actually moderate, where we'd actually get some gains for workers, where we'd actually get some gains for the environment, as opposed to just like, well, we're not going to destroy everything and we're not going to let the billionaires make, trillions without the workers making a few bucks along the way. So, a lot of her ideas are really, really good. Some of them are very, very extreme, but we need some extremes. We do, because if we don't have them, we're never going to pull it back to the real center again.
Right.
So, and as far as her, so that's my take on her. But as far as her introducing Bernie, yes, you mentioned this. There is a requirement that once you cross the threshold, you have to get a nomination at the convention.
Right.
He was her man. Like, they aligned politically, right? So It made sense for her to do that, even though it was symbolic. It's all it was symbolic.
Right. It was just procedural.
It's procedural. It's symbolic. Yeah. And that's why it made sense for her to do it, because he was the candidate that most aligned with her philosophies. But I'll go back to yesterday and talk about how, Bernie he's become a very, very good advocate for Joe and Kamala, especially Kamala. And I think that when you look at that and you see that how that might influence Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and now she's on this environmental board with Joe Biden. And I think it's like, look, she has to push these things. She has to push the far left agenda, but she also has to understand how politics works. And she has to get a taste of that in the sense of, um, here's how we get things done. We actually have to compromise. And she wasn't one for compromise too much at the beginning, right?
No.
She was always calling out Pelosi, and I think she still will to some extent. And again, we need that. But you know, I think she was the opposite end of the spectrum of the Clintons, the Kerrys, and the Schumers. She's the one that's like, okay, they're down like this, they're going down, and she's up,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So that's that part of it to me, and I think that means.
And she ends up with 90 seconds, right? So here's let me, your opinion. What would you rather have seen? Okay, pick somebody. I don't care. I really don't care who it is. However, it has to be somebody who was not that you didn't see at the convention yet. Okay, yeah. Or somebody that's not scheduled. Would you rather have seen them take 90 seconds yesterday to go through the procedural nomination and give AOC, I don't know, 5-6 minutes tonight?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I understand again, and you were right on, and you know why it was her last night for Sanders, because I mean, I think she came out and said that he's the reason that he was the one that gave her the support in order to run to begin with.
Right.
So yeah, I get that, but whenever you have somebody who is, I'll say the cliche, a mover and a shaker in a party, okay, and obviously somebody the Republicans fear, or they wouldn't attack her as much as they do.
Right.
Why are you pigeonholing her into a 90-second symbolic procedural bullshit thing instead of putting her primetime full-throated endorsement of Biden? She can still push her agenda a bit, and all of a sudden you have a Latino, young Latino woman who is pushing Joe Biden primetime.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do that?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think that there's a little bit of a fear in the Democratic Party that they don't want to be seen as. I mean, look at what Kasich said the night before on some interview. He said Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is not the Democratic Party. She's a member of the Democratic Party.
Right.
And I think that image is what the Democrats are trying to convey to middle America right now. She's a member of the party. There is a particular portion of the party that is far left. Yeah, you said it right. They're pigeonholing her. That's what I think that the image is to say, you know, we have this element just like every party has. We're a two-party system. We have to have this big tent, just like the Republicans have a big tent to include the Tea Party and the MAGAs and everything else. And we have folks who are very progressive, very liberal, very, moderate. We have people in the South who are maybe conservative Democrats. Right. So, we try to include all those people in the Democratic Party. None of them define the party in and of themselves. And that may have been the message there with her. Strategically, we'll wait to see how that plays out. I don't think she's, I don't think that she's offended. I think she tweeted something about it today. She used, Elijah Cummings' little poem that he said about, I only have a minute. And she talked about how there's an eternity in it, that minute. And so I think she took the moment and understood it for what it was, that she's she's still a young woman, a rock star that got a chance to speak at the Democratic National Convention. You and I can say it should have been more. We should have wanted to see more and have her have an opportunity to really give an impassioned speech. And I think we were cheated out of that a little bit, but we'll see if the strategy pays off, because I think they're trying to appeal to the middle right now.
I'm not nearly as big a fan of hers as you are. What I am a fan of when it comes to her is her enthusiasm and her passion for what she's doing. Right. That I think is very contagious if the right people see it.
Right.
Which is why specifically threw out her demographic, right? And saying, I asked my wife yesterday, whenever I saw what the lineup was and who had how much time, and I saw that she only had a minute to do this. And I looked at her and I said, honey, do you think this has anything? You think this is a subtle reminder that you really shouldn't try to kneecap Nancy Pelosi your first 10 days in office the way she did? And my wife kind of looked at me and said, you know what, maybe she has to realize that there is a hierarchy that she has to follow. I don't know. I hope not, because I still think you need somebody to shake things up. Like you said, you need people who are just going to come up, and even if they're on your side or on the opposite side, sometimes you need somebody to punch people in the mouth.
Yeah. And
I think she's more than capable of doing that. And I think she relishes that role. And I think she's very good at it. And I think she will have a very long career doing that. But I wonder if this wasn't a kind of a left-handed message that, hey, you better get on board.
Well, I mean, maybe, but think about this for a second. Like in our region, we've got Connor Lamb, who won a Democrat. As a Democrat, he won and went to the House of Representatives from Western Pennsylvania right after Trump won in 2016.
Right.
And he's probably in the realm of a very moderate Democrat, maybe even close to a conservative Democrat. So if, I don't know, is he in the lineup? I haven't seen his name in there, right?
As far as I know, he's not, but I'll be honest, I didn't exactly study it.
I don't think he is. And he's a freshman Democrat in a race that's very important. And if you I think you do know this, his election got more difficult because they combined another district, and then he's running against another veteran. He's a veteran himself, but he's running against a veteran from the Republican side that's getting all kind of money. So to me, I think it's one of those things where the Democratic Party, yes, it's a slight in the sense that of the speakers, she didn't get a cherry deal, but she is a freshman representative that got a spot, whereas Connor Lamb didn't get a spot, and a lot of other people didn't get a spot.
Neither none of her
squad mates.
Yeah, they didn't get anything. So no. She did. So you make a good point. I wonder. Speaking of spending money, and I'm going a little bit off topic here, but I wonder how much. And folks, I'm sorry, but we're going to talk real local here for a second. This Lynn Ryan, how much freaking money are the Republicans pumping into her? I'm getting shit in the mail from her or her campaign like every other day.
Yeah. See signs for everywhere throughout Newcastle, all throughout the North Hill. I haven't traveled too much through other parts of the city, but I've seen her signs up in Union Township, North Hill. Union Township is a Synod stronghold.
I know.
Up there for her. They got to be spending a shit ton of money. It matters. It matters in the sense of control of Congress in Pennsylvania, because we know that gerrymandering and all that stuff starts there. So it's important for that in that regard. We've talked about Chris Donato, who's been our very, very long time rep from this area for the Pennsylvania House of Representatives in Harrisburg. Do you think there's some complacency there on Chris's part in the sense that he felt?
No. And I'll be honest, I still think that this isn't going to be a race. It's Lawrence County. It's a very elderly community, and he has the old people in his pocket, and they vote.
Every event, he goes to every event.
Yeah, all the time, not just whenever he's running. He's always there.
He's always there. He meets the people. He talks to people. He sends out newsletters throughout the 2 years of his term. He's always sending out updates. He knows who his voters are too. I mean, he knows who the people that go to the polls are.
Yeah. If you want to look at how to be a lifetime politician, study him.
Yeah.
Because he hits home runs. That being said, I don't think he's going to lose.
I hope not, for the reasons that we said, because it's important in the sense we need to have some checks and balances, and the Republicans have controlled the Congress in Pennsylvania for a little while now.
Yeah. I still think he's. There's just too many people like him. Too many people are going to vote for him. He does too. I'll be honest. He does too much for too many people.
Yeah.
Right. He's a very good representative. He may not be the biggest fighter on the planet, but I don't know of anybody who's ever turned to him and said, "Hey, I need help with this or that or whatever," that he didn't come through in some way.
Right.
So basically, he does his job.
Right.
Well, how much longer do you think the post office is going to continue to do its job?
I think that, that, as we talked about a little bit before, but I still love to talk about this topic because it's such an important topic. I think they'll continue to do their job into our kids' lifetime. And some of that's wishful thinking, but I think that, we sent this thing around our Discord the other day. Somebody sent it on our Discord about 55 cents to send grandma a letter. UPS and FedEx is $23 or something like that to send grandma a letter. I mean, nobody else comes to your house. Nobody else is, in the community that way. I think it's something insane, like a 90% rating of the post office.
Yeah, it's insane. It's, as far as I know, it's the highest rated government agency in history.
Yeah, I mean,
it's ridiculous.
He made a huge mistake. This was, I mean, you can say stupid shit and get away with it. This was a big mistake, a big mistake. And I honestly think he can run from it. And I don't know that he can, quite frankly.
Well, I think this this House committee hearing, though, isn't that Friday?
Yes.
I think that's going to open the door for him to be able to sidestep this and say, "See, I had nothing to do with it. It was all him."
That's a good point. I mean, is this guy going to fall on the sword, and is he going to do that?
No chance in hell. But it's not going to matter.
Okay.
None of his other folks do, right? None of them ever really fell on their sword. It just never mattered.
Right. Who was the guy that was that, toilet salesman that was the temporary AG for a hot second? Remember that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the closest thing that I've ever seen come to it, where he said, I think he admitted he didn't have certain qualifications.
Was that the guy right after Sessions?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was really in there just for a hot second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, nobody else really ever took the fall. And that guy didn't exactly take a fall either, but he said he admitted to some things. And I think he kind of made it seem like he was just there to kind of sit in the seat for a second until he got his regular appointee there. But, I don't know. I think Friday will be a chance to, the other side of the spectrum is Friday's a chance to really get into some detail. Do you see there's a possibility of asking an accounting of how many, mailboxes were removed, an accounting of, how many sorting machines were removed? If there's a replacement for anything. So you think there's a chance of information about that?
Well, funny you should ask those questions. Remember what we said yesterday about the damage already being done?
Right.
Well, here's CNN. Okay. The post office backed off, but the damage is already done. Remember we said yesterday, all right, you're stopping what you're doing, but are you doing anything to correct or to account for everything you've already done? So Louis DeJoy halted the changes. However, DeJoy said some of the deferred decisions meant the retailers of the post office will not change. Mail processing equipment and blue collection boxes will remain in place, and no mail processing facilities will be closed. But he still didn't. He didn't say anything about the overtime.
Right.
Okay. He didn't say anything about, okay, now we're going to replace these boxes that we got rid of. Okay, we're going to put them back. He didn't mention any of that shit. Right. My guess is he's not going to. My guess is, and I'll go as far as to say, I think they went as far as they wanted to go. And if they were able to go any further than they did, they just would have considered that a blessing and just would have kept going. But I think the damage that they did was, at the end of the day, all they were looking for.
Yeah, it was a win already for Trump because he's already, made people scared to vote by mail. He's already probably affected enough, slowed it down enough to impact votes reaching where they need to vote, where they need to get to. Clearly, I think there's polling that shows Democrats, registered Democrat voters are more likely to use mail-in than Republicans. So, yeah, the damage is done in that sense. But what about what we talked about on Monday when we said, and this is something I could see Katie Porter doing. We both lived through that time when the Newcastle post office building downtown, which was that grand old building, was replaced by the Cascade Street facility. And there was this long study that was done. It was literally, a protracted, extended, study. And then they surveyed sites. They talked about where the best place it could go. And then, they had to go through the union and everything else to make sure that they could move out there. And they did. So when you're talking about making these changes, it's not something that just one person can come in, should be able to just come in and say, yeah, I'm scaling back these things because we need to do this for the business purposes, for more efficiency or, to cut costs or whatever. There has to be studies around that. This is a government agency. So what studies were done? And what studies was he using to justify these actions? And I think Katie Porter or somebody like her is going to probably question him about that. And is he going to say, well, let me go get those? No, you already acted. You acted. You're here today to talk about why you acted.
Right.
You have to know why you acted.
Right. You're going to come here that unprepared? I don't think so. You're going to answer my damn question.
Yeah.
Boy, she's just going to eat him alive. One of the things that they're not talking about, and I didn't realize this until I read it. And I got to be honest with you, Frank. I didn't even know this was a thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. But like we said about how they already did the damage. Okay. Basically what this article is saying, and this is Talking Points memo, and it is very slanted. I will say that. But what happens is postal workers usually counts as an authorized official who can sign on as a voter's witness. Okay. Mm-hmm. However, now postal employees are prohibited from serving as witnesses in their official capacity while on duty. And this is the part that I don't understand. Due in part to the potential operational impacts. The fuck could that be? The Postal Service does not prohibit an employee from serving as a witness in their personal capacity off duty if they choose. So it would appear to me that the folks bring their ballots to the post office. They actually walk them in, and the postal worker behind the counter, they'll sign it, and the postal person behind the counter will witness it.
Yeah.
Now they're no longer permitted to do that. I guess they have to be blind whenever they're doing their jobs now.
There's also this element. The carrier comes to the door, and especially in a rural area, and sometimes where they'll sign for a package, the person receiving will sign for a package or sign for a letter. So that's part of their. And then if the person's saying, I'm sending this ballot back, I need you to sign as a witness right at my door, that's the job. It doesn't impact operations. You basically have signatures at times, like I said. If you're giving a signature, it might take you an extra 15 seconds, 20 seconds at the most. But here's the thing. If there are people who want to do this, they could run rings around the regulation that you just read. And that's why I was kind of giggling as you read it, because I'm myself. All right, so let's say as a letter carrier, they give you a 15-minute break in the morning, 15-minute break in the afternoon, and a half hour or an hour lunch. I don't know which way they did it. Let's say they give them lunch.
Their union, probably an hour.
Yeah. So then these guys say, okay, I'm going to take 15 seconds of break or 20 seconds of my break at Frank's house, 20 seconds of my break at Patsy's house, 20 seconds of my break at Patsy's dad's house. And they'll just break it because they're not going to get ballots at every house every day.
Right.
So they're going to say, hey, I was off duty. I took my break for those 15 seconds signed in front of me. I wasn't in my official capacity. I was on break.
Well, I hope so, right? I mean, I hope that's what they do.
Yeah.
We talk about the damage they did, right? If this is the case, and like I said, it's talking points memo, and like I said earlier, it is rather very left leaning. It is, but I know some of the names of the people who write for this thing, and they're credible. Right. Okay. And this is coming from the Anchorage Daily News, which is, trust me when I tell you, it is not the most liberal newspaper you're ever going to find.
No.
So you have to assume that it's correct. But this is what we mean by the damage that they've done that they're in no way going to correct.
And nobody, until you read that, didn't know about it. And I would assume, I would make an assumption that a lot of folks don't know that that is the case. And the postal carrier is not allowed to serve as a witness, or at the clerk behind the desk with your local branch, they're not allowed to serve as a witness. I would, and it's a damaging thing if people were to go in and expect that to be the case, and then be told no. And what if they do get of the postal clerk and then they're invalidated?
Right.
So there's a lot of problems there. There's a lot of potential problems that down the road. They're just setting up reasons to contest this thing. Trump does that every day, where he's talking about, if I lose, it's rigged. If I lose, it's rigged. It's one thing for you and I to say that, but the president to say it is a whole different thing. And speaking of norms and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, do you think that if the Democrats win the House, the Senate, and the presidency in 2020, and I've got my take on this, and I'll tell you after you say yours, but do you think that Biden and the executive branch should actively be involved in prosecuting Trump?
Yes. Now, I know the norm is not to. You saw it with Nixon, and I guess to an extent you kind of saw with Clinton. But I don't forget, Nixon was pardoned, and there was a whole lot of shoulder shrugging and eye winking throughout the federal government whenever those Senate Republicans went to Nixon and said, "Hey, it's time for you to go. We can't protect you," right? And they kind of covered all the bases and said, "Look, just get out. Everything's going to be fine. We already cut all the deals. We already did everything," right? And so you had two parties who, for whatever reason, and I don't mean that, I'm not trying to cast out, but they had their own reasons, acted in the greater good, or at least made it appear that they acted in the greater good, right? Okay, we have a cancer here. We got rid of the cancer. Now let's just move on. No one really, no one in government really faulted Ford for pardoning them. They may have bitched here and there, but there wasn't a huge outcry, from the House or the Senate.
Right. In the government ranks. Right?
In the government ranks, right?
Yeah.
But you're now you're talking about somebody who solicited interference from a hostile government.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to go over very well, and I am hoping that when he loses, and I think even though I drive my wife crazy being terrified that Democrats are going to blow this thing, I really do believe that it's going to be a sweep. And I've said it on the show how many times. The Democrats are going to end up controlling the House, the Senate, and the White House. I think that if for no other reason, you need to show not only the world but other people like Trump, who's like Trump minded, that you will pay a very heavy price for acting at this way if you do this ever, if this happens ever again.
I think that's the ideal, and I would like to see it for that reason also. There's the fear in that, does it become a political tool though moving forward, because you've got these extremists that have become almost the norm, the Fox News crowd, the Tucker Carlsons, the Rush Limbaughs of the world, who have the voice that for some reason has the ear of all these people out and that spend time commuting in their cars. Do they rant and rave and say, well, if you lose an election, then basically you're going to be persecuted by the next party in power, and just expect that to come to pass? Now, Democrats, you're going to have that happen to you from here on out. And I wonder if that's not what Bill Barr's been telling Trump all this time. It's maybe. Just, do what you want to do. Just do what the hell you want to do, because at the end of the day, everybody's afraid to prosecute a former president.
And you know what? You may be right, but I think that these guys have to go past that.
Yeah,
I think I think they have an obligation to go past. Now, are you going to ask me? Do I think they'll actually live up to it? I'll be honest. I don't think Schumer has the balls to do it.
No,
but I think that what's her name does. Oh,
Pelosi?
No, in the Senate.
Oh, okay. Warren?
Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
Pelosi does. Yeah, Pelosi will do it with a smile. She'll stab him in the throat, and he won't even know he's bleeding till he hits the ground.
Right.
But I think if you see this wave, you're going to see Schumer voted out. You're going to see Elizabeth Warren in as majority leader, and yeah, she'll go at him, and she'll step on his head with both feet.
Yeah. And I think she's smart enough and clear enough in speaking that she'll delineate and say why this is a different situation than any other situation. This isn't based on politics. This isn't based on party. And it's clear. I mean, it is clear, but it's going to be muddied by the other side, but that's okay. I think you're right. And I agree with you that ultimately you have to make tough decisions, and you have to do those kind of things and hope that it shakes out and say, this was the exception. This was the exception. His whole presidency was the exception. He acted in these manners, saying that he was going to tear down all the norms of our country, and in doing so, then he's exposed himself.
You have a situation here where you had the Republicans who had not only the opportunity but the responsibility to protect their country from this. And they chose to cave.
That's
okay. They chose to fall in line. Mm-hmm. They're cowards. Okay.
Yep.
Now it's going to fall on the Democrats. And are you going to be as cowardly? Or because it may actually be harder for the Democrats now, simply because of what you said. I don't think the opinions of Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, or any of those other knuckleheads really plays much into the thought process for Nancy Pelosi or Elizabeth Warren.
Couldn't. No.
Right. I really now. Will the other Democrats and the other the other Democrats in either chamber? It might, simply because of, like we said, you're going to have Democrats from southern districts, from very conservative districts, and blue dog Democrats, and how are they going to respond to this? That's going to be a tough question to answer. But I think if we're going to be idealistic and whatnot. I really don't think Democrats have any choice, and they're going to put their necks out on the chopping block, I think, and they better, they really better, or they're just opening the door for the next Republican to do the same shit.
I agree, and I think that they need to do it, and it's a time that they'll have to take a stand. And Biden has committed to doing so. He has said he would. So I take him at his word there. I think that whoever the Senate leader, if it's not Schumer, and it's Schumer, in my opinion, and I do the same thing so much in just so many words when you just said that minutes ago. I think that somebody like Elizabeth Warren, they will have no problem with going after him, delineating why it's being done. Schumer said the other day, this is just an aside, but he said if DeJoy doesn't have ratings, he should be stamped and returned to sender. I said, what the hell? This isn't a joke. This is a joke. I mean, this is serious stuff. And you're the Senate minority leader and you're making jokes on Twitter about it. No, it's not the time for that.
I think he's trying to be clever, but dude, he's weak. Okay, I'm sorry. He has a weak personality. He doesn't fight. He hides behind Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Instead of standing beside her, he stands behind her. All right. If I need a shield, that's a pretty damn good one to have. But you shouldn't need a shield. You're the minority chair. You're from New York, for God's sake. What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know how to fight?
Yeah.
From Western PA. Come on, bring it on. This guy's from New York.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. I'm very hopeful. Absolutely support, even though that there's fallout from it. I support it, and I think it can be done because as you've delineated very clearly between the next situation and this situation was Republican Party members stood up for what was right for the country at the time. The Republicans have not done so, with the exception of Mitt Romney, one holdout, the whole party. They need that this can't be tolerated, that it won't be tolerated. And I'll go so far as to say this. Honestly, I think people like John in Wisconsin, turds in California like Devin Nunes and the other guy Rohrabacher who lost his election, I think they all should be. There should be investigations as to how deep their Russian ties go, and how complicit all this. And if it found out that they did anything illegal, they should be prosecuted too.
Yeah, I do too. We'll see if it ever gets to that. Frank, we wanted to talk about Goodyear and everything else, and here we kind of ran out of time.
Well, at least everybody what's going on with Goodyear. Just give them a quick tease on that.
Okay, basically what happened, for folks who don't know who were not paying attention, Goodyear came out and pretty much told their employees that they don't want any political anything with their employees. Okay, apparently an employee had a MAGA hat on. Okay. And what they said was there is a zero tolerance policy whenever it comes to political statements, political anything for our company. So in other words, if you are representing Goodyear, you cannot show any political anything. Okay.
They couldn't wear a Biden t-shirt and they can't wear a MAGA hat.
Right. You can't. You can't do it. Now on your own time, it's your own time, right? And so on and so forth. Well, Trump lost his shit over this, and he tweets out. Now, this is the president of the United States, who not a month ago was pushing Goya foods.
Yeah.
Okay. Not a month ago. A Mexican food company.
Right.
Tweets out 7 hours ago, don't buy Goodyear tires. They announced a ban on MAGA hats. Get better tires for far less. This is what the radical left Democrats do. Two can play the same game, and we have to start playing it now. Goodyear, everything is made in the U.S. Everything Goodyear does is made in freaking Akron. The city and the state that you need.
Yeah.
Moron.
And it's local to us. And I'm sure there are people that probably have ties very close to here in Newcastle that have people that work in that plant. And you know what? not, as far as I know, Goodyear wasn't involved in the whole rubber tree thing in Vietnam. That was one of the, it was one of the reasons why the French went to war with Vietnam, and then why we got sucked into that war in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
That was Michelin.
That was Michelin, right?
Goodyear, I don't think was involved in that at all.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem to have a much cleaner hands type thing. And let's face it, we're talking about today's reality, and today's reality is they're saying let's depoliticize our work environment. Let's de-escalate any tensions. Let's just come to work. And what's wrong with that? They're not saying you can't be a MAGA supporter at home. They're just saying don't bring it into the workplace. Don't be a Biden supporter in the workplace. Don't be whoever, the governor of Ohio. You can't wear his hat in there either. So to me, it's garbage. It's stepping on free commerce and democracy and consumer capitalism. It's a problem for the president to do that. As a quick aside, we were at the grocery store the other day, and we had to pick up some supplies for Taco Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And my daughter reached for some beans, and she goes, "Oh, here's the kind of black beans I want." And they were Goya, and I grabbed her hand. I said, "Put those back on the shelf." She goes, "Why?" I said, "I'll tell you why later." There was right next to him was another brand, and I said, "Those are just as good." We grabbed the other.
I'll give you two examples. Where I work, you will never see a political anything anywhere in our company. Okay, we have 3 buildings. We have one campus on Shenango Township, and we have a building on Moravia Street. You will never see a political anything inside or outside of the building. In fact, whenever the idiots come driving up and down the street and they stop and they put a sign out in our yard, he's telling our owner, who's as MAGA can be, is telling people to, telling somebody, the first person he sees, go out there and get that sign out of the yard.
Yeah.
Okay. And contrast to that, my wife was getting wanted to get her car washed, and there is a certain car wash downtown. And whenever she pulled in to get her car washed, the person who owns the place was there with a MAGA hat. And she went through the car wash, she did her thing, and she hasn't been back since.
Yeah.
Right? So I know a couple of people who are in martial arts who have products that they're selling, who on Facebook are pushing the MAGA agenda like crazy. One of these people, him and I share an instructor. Okay, we're both we're both under the same guy, and I will not buy any of his stuff anymore, nor will I push it or suggest or try to help him out in any way, because you are a business. There is no room for politics at all. And if that's what you're choosing to forfeit income because you're not going to get it from us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have to vote with our pocketbooks as well as our vote. And, their support is going to go be somebody who has done awful things to people in our country, who has made awful policies that are going to harm people in the country, standing in the world, quite frankly. It's embarrassing. I saw that poll today. Almost 7 out of 10 Americans say they're embarrassed at our world standing at our response to COVID. 68% of the people in America. That lays at the feet of Trump. So if there are people in this community, in our own community, that are supporting Trump, they are continuing to perpetuate our bad image around the world, and more so just harming people here. And I can't support that. I can't support it.
I can't either. Okay, Frank. We went a little over today for 2 days in a row, but you know what? That's the way it goes sometimes, man.
Sometimes we'll be a little short. Sometimes
don't be too upset. It just means you got us for an extra 5 minutes. Should be happy with that. For everybody watching, thank you very much. Just in case you're wondering, Frank, just to throw it out there, I told you yesterday we're on Daily Motion. We started there yesterday.
Yep.
We're on D Live. I never even heard of that before, but we were on D Live. We started that today. So we're on a couple of new ones. In any case, thank you everybody for watching, for tuning in, for your chats on Twitch, and until tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. We'll see everybody then. Until then, goodbye.